Okay, hopefully now Sarah can get on here. Let's see. Sarah Swallow. Send request. All right.
Oh,
Hey, we
it
got it.
worked. It worked.
Nailed it. I'm so happy. I was like, oh no, I hope Sarah can join.
I know. I was like, I even came up to the highest point of the ranch to get the best cell signal. So I was like, it's gotta work.
Man, so much dedication. And I'm pretty jealous because it looks like you're in a very sunny, warm area.
Yes.
Which
Yes, I'll
hopefully,
show
yeah.
I'll show you my view from here.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Oh my God. I am so jealous right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Um, well, I'm super thankful that you're able to make this. And I really wish I were there in the desert and we were just like across from each other Instagramming,
Yes,
which is
totally.
like maybe the most millennial-ish thing I've ever said. You just saying the words Instagram live in general is
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh God, this is so millennial.
This is my
Um,
first this is my first Instagram live, so this is a whole new experience for me.
welcome,
I feel
welcome
very
to
behind
the
the times.
Yeah, welcome to the internet party. Um, but yeah, I'm super excited that you're able to join and you're, in the middle of nowhere is what I was describing earlier. And yeah, so maybe just say like where you're at right now.
Yeah, yeah. I am on this research ranch called the Appleton Whittle Research Ranch. It's in southern Arizona. It's about 20 miles north of the border with Mexico. And this ranch used to be a cattle ranch, but they stopped grazing it in 1968, I think. And since that time, it's been conserving like a semi-arid grassland. So it's just bringing back the landscape to its like natural state, and
Yeah.
all the critters, all the biodiversity that's come back
Yeah.
to it. And I'm just here. I've been here all winter, kind of helping them build some more cycling infrastructure for the ranch. And because I got introduced to this place through making the Sky Islands Odyssey bikepacking route. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Gosh, yeah, yeah, we can rewind
yeah,
because like it's so cool, to see you now and at this place and it's you're creating this really cool community for people like me to come and enjoy. Like when I rode with you, I was like, holy shit, like I had no idea that like that was there and it was stunning. Like it was like what, a 2 hour ride and
yeah,
you don't see anyone. It's so beautiful, but it's, seeing that and knowing where you were for, like how your journey there is so interesting. So yeah, I mean, when we first got introduced, when I worked at Specialized, like you were still living kind of on the East Coast,
yeah,
running your bike shop. And I would love it if you could speak about that. And because God, it feels like a different world, like a different
it does.
lifetime.
Yeah, totally. It really does. Yeah, I was like, I gotta remember, like, yeah, the order of things. But yeah, I had opened Swallow Bicycle Works in Loveland, Ohio, in 2010 with my partner at the time. And we owned and operated that bike shop for 5 years. We kind of just did. We opened in a location where a bike shop had been
Okay.
for like 20 years, and we had both worked at that bike shop, so we kind of just carried on,
Yeah.
but in our own style. So we kind of did some used bikes at first, but then we started doing like custom builds and
Oh,
gravel
cool.
bikes and bike packing bikes. And that was really like, people weren't really doing that in Southwest Ohio at the time, just because everybody was like, road or cyclocross. The
Yeah.
closest gravel was like 2 hours away.
And
But
gravel bikes, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was doing like a really easy loop on my gravel bike, and I was like, oh man, I remember when like gravel bikes weren't a thing, and I was
No.
nervous to take a road bike on gravel. I was like, I don't know, man, the
Yeah.
carbon, I could break it.
Right, right.
What?
We rode we rode cyclocross bikes. It was like
Totally.
we were like burnout cyclocross racers that were like, okay, we want to do something different,
Yeah.
and started taking our cyclocross bikes on gravel roads.
Yeah.
um 35 millimeter tires. Now I'm like riding 2.1 inch tires.
Your gravel bike is a mountain. It is a
Yeah.
hardtail. It is. I was like, dang, what? You're on a different bike than me.
Yeah, well, it's built for the type of riding that I do. And like a lot of the gravel roads I'm doing
Yeah.
are like gravel roads, but they're kind of like, it's like the original mountain bike, they're
Yeah.
deep roads, 4-wheel drive, high
Yeah.
clearance kind of stuff.
So so you started, founded the bike shop in 2010. And then, I mean, now obviously you don't own this bike shop. So
Yeah.
and I know you took a trip at one point, across the country on bikes, which is so interesting. And I would love, yeah. So, yeah, what even inspired that trip? Because that I feel like was like your tipping point. That kind of, it was like it kind of like changed the trajectory of your life, I think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Riding across the country was something that I had always wanted to do, but I just didn't want to do it in like the traditional way on like paved roads or anything like that. And I had recently started working with Specialized, so I was like, oh, I want to just like take advantage of this little extra support to do something that I've always wanted to do. And so I found this route called the TAT. It's called the Transamerica Trail, which is the same as the adventure cycling route, but this one was designed by dual sport motorcyclists. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and so like I found that route and I like watched a bunch of YouTube videos
This
of
sounds
like
like
people
me.
just like GoProing the whole route.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can ride that, like that's all stuff, I can ride on my gravel bike. And so yeah, like the original plan was to just close the bike shop for 3 months while we did this trip. But
When was this?
this was in 2015.
Okay.
And so yeah, that was the original plan. Just like a little backstory, I had been trying to get out of my lease at the bike shop for probably 3 years, because shortly after we moved in, another business moved in right next door, that was like a CrossFit boxing gym.
Yeah.
And so they were required to insulate the walls between us,
Oh my God.
but they just used the cheapest, insulation. So every day I would show up to work, it would just be like, "Hua!" like just like, "Hua! Hua!" like just constantly, and like, really loud, kind of intense music, and it would just
Oh,
spill over into my space. And so I'd be
yeah, I
like
could
working
not
with a
concentrate.
customer. Yeah, it was just so obnoxious. So I was like I was talking to all these lawyers, like, how do I get out? And they're like, you're locked in. You're
Yeah.
locked in. So 2 months before we left on our trip, the property manager came in with all this paperwork. They're like, oh, we're gonna sell the building,
Yeah.
and we need you to sign all this paperwork. Oh,
Yeah.
and we also need you to notarize the lease of, for your space. And I was like, notarize the lease. And so a quick Google search later, I realized that our lease wasn't ever notarized. In the state of Ohio, your lease has to be notarized
Oh my God.
within signing, or else you're just at a month-to-month lease. And so right then and there, I just wrote up a letter and said, hey, we're moving out. And
That's incredible.
we packed
How
up the shop.
fortuitous. Like,
Yeah,
that's insane. Sometimes like legal stuff is such a pain in the ass, and it's just like, I can't think. My brain doesn't work like that. But then when there's like that one loophole, you're
yeah,
like, oh my God.
yeah, yeah. It was really good timing. And yeah, and so we just like packed up the shop, and closed the doors, and we're like, well, we'll figure out what we're gonna do when we get back.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Um,
So you guys just embarked on this. Were you carrying all of your stuff going across the country, like planning on camping, or was it like a little bit of credit card camping as well?
yeah, we carried all of our stuff to camp. Since it was our first bike tour, we did stay in like more hotels than I
I'm just
would
thinking
ever
it's the
stay in.
first bike tour. Yeah, no problem. First
Well,
one. Let's just zip
yeah,
across the country.
not it was. I got to backtrack. It wasn't our first one. It was our fourth bike tour, but it was like all the other bike tours were like 3 days.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
this was like
still, it's
first
like
real bike tour.
you just jumped into like the ocean after learning how to like wade in the
Yeah,
swimming pool.
yeah. It was a deep dive, and yeah, it took a month to get
Oh, for
used to
sure.
everything. Yeah, yeah.
Man. So, on this trip, I mean, I'm sure you saw were there other riders on it or mostly moto people or what did
Yeah,
you, yeah.
well, yeah, like we didn't know of any other cyclists that had done it before us. So yeah, and a lot of the infrastructure on the route was all built for dual sport motorcyclists, and so they'd be like, "Oh my God, you're the first people we've ever seen on bikes out here."
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and we did see a lot of people on motorbikes occasionally,
Yeah.
which was nice.
It,
But yeah,
I,
for the most part,
I
no
mean,
one.
in all of like the big mountain rides I've done in Colorado, I always end up seeing people on like, the independent suspension, like Razor, whatever, or motorbikes. And they are so psyched to see a cyclist. They're like, you guys are nuts. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
you're nuts. Like, you're
Yeah.
crazy.
I know. Yeah, it was funny because at certain portions of the route, we were traveling at the same speed as the dual sport motorcyclists because they would like get up into some like rough terrain and then like drop their bikes and like have all
Oh,
sorts of issues. So we were overlapping with people quite a bit for a little while, but then
yeah.
they would come across a day that they could ride 200
Right,
miles and
right.
we'd be going like 70.
Yeah. So on this trip, I mean, and I'm sure, this had to have happened for you. This stuff always happens for me. Like when there's like one of those experiences where I kind of, and it almost doesn't matter the distance or like the length duration, but doing stuff like this where you're like kind of out of your comfort zone and you're seeing a lot of things and you're like at this point in your life where you're kind of ready to have, it's all like you're ready for some kind of change. So I'm curious as to like, I'm sure at some point during the trip there was like a moment of like, I don't know, an epiphany of a slow epiphany of some sort, and I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, there really was. And it was like a slow, kind of gradual realization that I didn't have to live a certain way, like a certain traditional way. I
Yeah.
met lots of people on that trip that were living alternatively and just making it work. And I had some like, you know, preconceived notion of like what I had to do and like but I wasn't necessarily very excited about it. Like, there were elements that I loved about owning a bike shop. But when I looked at myself and was like, do I want to be doing this? Will I be like healthy, happy kind of person in 10
Right.
years from now if I continue doing this? And my answer was no. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I need to, kind of reevaluate what I'm doing. And I just felt so good and like so myself on that trip
Yeah.
that I was like, I just want to feel this more. Like, I want to feel this more often.
Yeah.
And
That
yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. I just wanted to do it more.
it's so interesting, right? Because I think I I love that, we both kind of had that like realization at some point, like, or everyone does, is like you find something that makes you feel like very alive and like immediately like everything just feels aligned. But then it's like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And thinking about even like my conversation with Tina, she did kind of a 180 with her life. And I think about you, I'm like, you totally did a 180 you went from like something that was somewhat pretty structured, right? Like you've got to
Hmm.
be really responsible. You're a business owner, you employ people, like all of this stability. And then you see that there's other ways of living. And then it's just kind of like, where do I fit in that spectrum? Um, because I think like that resonates with me where I'm like, oh, I feel most alive doing this stuff. But I tried being like, just living like somewhat alternatively, and like I'm so type A that I cannot do it. I'm like, it makes me like really uncomfortable. Um and so I like that, everyone can kind of find their own way. And so I think like in my head, what I want to kind of know is, um one, it's like, how did you figure out where you landed? And I guess like figuring it out, like we're all still doing that. But
Hmm.
and then like layering on like social media on top of that, because I think it always portrays like the alternative lifestyle. And however you define that, it can be like van life or whatever, I don't even know. But it can like totally romanticize it, and I think like that's totally inaccurate. I think there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of struggle that you are sharing. So yeah, I would love to just know, like, now you're living in Arizona for the time being, but like that it took a while. It's, that was 2015, it's 2021. What
Yeah.
did that look like?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was such a struggle because, whenever you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to do something totally different now."
Yeah.
I mean, not only does that create like all this change in your life, like, oh, I got to sell all my possessions and
Oh God, yeah.
move out of my house, sell my car, like extra car, we had two or something
Yeah.
at one point. And
I mean, there's
and
so much
then
doubt probably. Like, did you
yeah,
just like freak out? Oh, I would be freaking out all the time.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there would be like waves of anxiety of just like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? And the other thing is like, other people look at you or you think they're looking at you like you're crazy, like what is this person doing? They're just like spiraling off the deep end. And you know, in 2015, it's not like it is today. Like,
Right.
it's so normalized to be van lifing, and everybody can work from their a good LTE hotspot, but that wasn't the case, in
Yeah.
2015. Believe it or not, it wasn't.
Yeah, you were a
And
maverick, I would say.
yeah,
I was like, it
not
was
quite a
not
maverick.
normal.
I was
Yeah.
like midway through, but now it's just very normalized. So yeah, and it took I mean it like I'm just like it's always evolving. I can't say that I'm like at a place that I'm like happy with now, but I'm definitely happier than I was, in 2015 post the tat. That was a really confusing time because I was just kind of trying to decide to do this, like whether or not I wanted to.
Yeah.
At one point I agreed to help open another bike shop,
Oh my God.
and then I started that process and then realized, no, what am I doing? I just said that I didn't want to do this. And so I had to go back and be like, no, I need to travel some more. I just need to keep traveling and keep doing what I want to do. And as long as I can, and then, sort it out, just keep following what my heart's telling me to do. And I just kept doing that. And it takes patience and it takes time. And like, for me, I just gradually just kept pursuing it and, working towards a goal of, making this lifestyle more sustainable
Yeah.
for me and more like dependable. And yeah, I think like this year, last year, well, this year I would say is actually a really, really good year. And but it took a really long time to get here
Yeah.
for sure.
I think it's so interesting, because you can like look at someone's Instagram or something and you're just like, oh man, this person like just travels and they're just it's like the best all the time. And it's just, what an amazing thing, which it is. Like, it's so great that you found something that works for you. It doesn't mean it works for everyone. It definitely doesn't work for me. I'm like, so I'm an anxious person to be. I'm so anxious.
Yeah.
I need to be like near healthcare at all times. For some
Yeah.
reason, I'm like paranoid. That's a whole different topic. But it's so cool to see, to like hear the backstories, because prior to COVID, I mean, you were traveling to South America,
Hmm.
um, which is like, not only is it like a privilege that you get to do that, which is
Hmm.
incredible, but in my head, I'm like, oh, that's so sick. I would love to do that. But then I'm like, oh shit, like there's probably a lot that goes into that. And I'm just seeing like the one picture that I'm like, oh, that road looks awesome. I want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
it's, yeah,
that doesn't include like getting altitude sickness and like at 12,500 feet and being like stuck in your tent for like an entire day, just like puking your guts out. And then it doesn't include like rushing around to the airport between airports and stuffing your bike in a box like 30 minutes before your flight takes off. Like it's just so hectic. It can be so
yeah.
hectic.
And so, like obviously, like this is stuff that like your heart, you love. It makes you feel the most alive, the most fulfilled, which like, we're all seeking in some way, whether it's like, or it's your whole life that's dedicated to it. And I assume it changes all the time. And I would just be curious to know kind of like how it's evolved, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say so, I went from the bike shop, and then after the tat, I spent, two to three solid years traveling, doing two-month trips at a time, 2-month bike tours at a time. And in
Yeah.
between that, I was living in a van in different places. Um, and then in 2017, later part of 2017, or yeah, in 2017, I met Adam, and he had a house in Durango, and so I started kind of basing myself out of Durango and still traveling.
Yep.
Um, but I just really like, there's something inside me that really resists being in one place for a long time. I don't know why that is. I think, I moved around a lot as a kid. Um, and so, yeah, I've just, over the past few years, I've just been spending all my winters in Arizona
Yeah.
because it's a place that I can continue to do what I want to do year round and then come
Right.
back to Durango in the summertime. And all the while I'm just basing myself out of these places and then doing different things from
Right.
here. But yeah, this past year I've been in one, the Durango and Arizona, and not touring as much, just because of COVID. So
Yeah.
it's been totally different. It's been a
Yeah.
totally different year.
And I mean, for me, I think like, and I don't know if this is true for you, but it sounds like it based on like, I know you're like now you've started a race, like you're doing all this stuff, like you're really giving back to the community. But I think there comes a point in everyone's life where, our 20s or something, it's like, we're just figuring it, like we're just go and do whatever you want. Like, no, you don't need to go and, save the world. It'd be great if you did, but
Yeah.
like at that point, like I look back, I'm like, God, I was a kid and I still am kind of. But you start like, things start changing and you're like, oh man, like I'm really lucky, like I'm really privileged that I get to do this stuff. Like how can I give back, because like I'm so honored to be able to do this stuff. Like now I would love to build my community in whatever way that means. It doesn't mean like one location, but it could be anything. And so like, you know, how do you think it's kind of evolved as you've grown older over the past couple of years? Because it's like, yeah, you see things, you learn things, and then there's like a deep appreciation, I think, that comes from being able to live how you want to, because like not everyone gets to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like to be able to go to the places that I've been able to go and have the experiences that I've been able to have has been an incredible privilege. And to kind of not share that or to like keep that to myself, doesn't feel right to me. Like I want to somehow, and yeah, I mean, I did that for a while. I
Right.
just did that because I needed to just figure that out. um,
Totally.
but nowadays I want to try to create experiences where people can have these like meaningful interactions or educational opportunities, or just like a window into an alternative life, or just like experience the outdoors in a certain way, and I want to help facilitate those experiences. Yeah, so I've been doing a lot down here in southern Arizona through the Sky Islands Odyssey Route Project. So there's three
Yeah. What's
routes.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, there's three routes. So there's an east loop, a west loop, and a full loop. The east loop's like 125 miles. The west loop is 170, and then the full loop is like 230 miles, I think. And the routes kind of go through this super biodiverse region of the Sky Islands. You're going through like four different biozones along the
That's
ride,
so
so it's
cool.
really awesome.
Yeah.
Mostly dirt roads, really, varying degrees of dirt roads, so it's actually good for all skill levels,
Yeah.
but really good one for beginners and just people who want to tour. And then through the route guides, I try to raise awareness to the not only the environmental threats that this part of the world faces, but also the humanitarian crisis and like the effect of the border wall on
Yeah.
this region. It's very kind of a huge deal down
Yeah. Oh,
here. So
huge.
it's hard to come down here and enjoy your bike down here without paying attention to that stuff and learning
It,
about that stuff. So
yeah. When I was down there, I think the only people I saw in Patagonia was the Border Patrol, and, just seeing the wall down there, it was like it was a shock.
yeah,
It was just like very real, and it was a really weird juxtaposition. And it was a huge wake up call on a lot of levels.
yeah,
Where I'm just like, oh my God, what am I doing?
yeah,
It's just like I need to do more. Like, how can I do more? And
right,
here I am enjoying my bike, which is ridiculous, and then immediately next to something that is like doing a lot of it's creating a lot of issues with a lot of
yeah,
people, and
it
it's
is.
sad.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the whole point of this route, is so that people can come down here and kind of become invested in this like beautiful place, this awesome ride, but also just be a wake up call. Like a lot of people come from the Midwest or the Pacific Northwest, and they have no concept of what it's like in the borderlands, like what border patrol and like the migrants who are coming through and suffering in the desert, like that's not something that they can register unless they come down here. And it's good that they know what's happening beforehand so that they can appreciate the privilege that they have when they come and ride. And
Yeah.
that's, again, I do so Ruta del Jefe is the event that I
Right.
host
Right.
down here, and I host that from the ranch here. And Ruta del Jefe follows the east loop of the Sky Islands route, but it's a one day, well, it's a weekend kind of event. So on Friday, we bring in representatives of a lot of organizations who are doing really good, important work down here
That's great.
to come speak to the riders the night before the ride.
Wow.
And then the next morning, everybody goes and does the ride. And
Yeah. That's like a
yeah,
pre-race meeting that like no one would miss.
yeah,
I would be
yeah.
very, I'd be like, I will show up early for this one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really impactful. We learn about jaguars, we learn about the Sky Islands region, and then we also learn about the humanitarian crisis. We learn about the Thaw and Autumn Nation and the work that they're doing and how they're impacted by the border wall. So it's really a really important conversation to have
Yeah.
before a lot of people, 100 people go ride out here.
Yeah. It's it's so, and I realize we're getting long in the tooth, but I just love, I mean, I would love for you to say any final things you have, but just seeing like the whole journey, and I think it it resonates no matter what your path is, right? It's like sometimes we just need to, it's never too late to start from scratch, really. Like,
Yeah,
and it's finding your way. You never really find it, and you just kind of go by feel almost.
yeah,
Um, and sometimes, like, I do love, that like you had a period of time where like you needed to do something that was much more focused on you because of whatever the, it's just like, it's just life, right? Like, I think I
yeah,
was really selfish, throughout my 20s or even up until like my 30s. Like, I just needed that in my life. And now I'm at a place where I feel like very full and I feel good enough that I can give back.
right.
Um, but I think until you feel full inside, it's really difficult to be able to give back to people,
Oh,
or your community. And so it's
yeah.
just really, it's great that you were able to find that in the way that makes you feel the most, I don't know, full.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that's something that ebbs and flows, like I this past year, I was one of the co-founders of WTF Bike Explorers.
Yeah.
And this past year I just hit just super burnout, and it was because I wasn't necessarily taking care of the things I needed to take care of. I was just kind of burnt out. And so I had to take some things off my plate, you know, go back and like take care of myself for a little while and then come back to the work that I wanted to do,
Yeah.
because I'm not very I'm not a very useful person to other people if I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah. That's true for
So
everyone. Oh my God.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you so much for, joining today. And I know, and hopefully if we're allowed to travel at some point or cross a border, you and I are doing a team effort for the Trans Gravel. It's like the Gravel Royale
Yes.
4-day stage race in British Columbia, allegedly.
Yeah, I
Just
can't wait.
you'll kick my ass. So I'm
No,
excited.
no,
I'm
no.
excited to
This will
see
be
how
good.
that goes. Yeah, hopefully it happens, but if not, maybe we'll make up our own little race
Exactly.
somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna hit you up when I'm in Moab in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm excited. And I'm just, it'll be fun kind of seeing your travels or where you land, and, hearing more about the place that you're in now and kind of the community that surrounds it, which is really impressive and awesome that you're helping out.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks so
For,
much.
thanks for doing this. This is really fun. I can't
Yeah,
wait
that's
to see all the other interviews. You got so many good ones lined up.
yeah, I'm excited. It's fun, and like totally selfishly, like I just feel like, man, I've met so many wonderful women in the cycling industry now. Um, I I'm like, I have so many friends, I think,
Oh yeah.
that I'm just like, oh my God, I want to go ride with everyone now.
Yeah, totally. I know. Yeah, that's what's great. That's what's great about the internet. There it can be good for some things and bad for other things, but it's really good for connecting people. And like so many of my friends, I have made friends like through the internet. Like it's amazing.
Totally.
And yeah, that to me like is such a great thing.
Yeah, this is what I hope social media is. It's like social, and it's for good and not evil. Um,
Great.
so thank you so much for sharing your story and for
Yeah.
driving out to the place with the best reception.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm glad it worked out.
yeah, enjoy the sun. I'm jealous, but hopefully we'll see you soon in Moab or something.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thanks, Reese.
Awesome. Bye, Sarah. Have a good one.
Okay, see ya. Bye.